let's start with some super basic information about embroidery hoops. First of all, what's the point of an embroidery hoop? An embroidery hoop is the mechanism your machine uses to control the motion of the fabric while you're embroidering. It works pretty much like how a hand embroidery hoop works. There's an outer hoop and an inner hoop, and they're held together with tension. You'll put the fabric and the stabilizer in between them and then attach the hoop to your machine. Let's go over some of the parts of an embroidery hoop. First of all, how do you know which side is the right side up? You always want to look for the text. When you can see the text, then you know that's the side of the hoop that should be up. You should also be looking at the text so that you can read it. So you don't want to be reading it upside down. It should be oriented so you're reading it just like you would read text on a page. On the side of the embroidery hoop, there's a rectangular piece that sticks out a little bit. This is the hoop connector. So this is the piece you'll actually snap into your machine when you attach your hoop. In the lower right-hand corner, there is a hook-shaped piece and a screw. So the hook is the quick release lever, and then the screw is the retaining screw. When you open the quick release lever, you can then lift the outer hoop away from the inner hoop. When you're ready to reattach them together, you'll put the outer hoop around the inner hoop and snap the quick release lever back into place. You never want to force the quick release lever, so if it's too hard to snap into place once there's fabric in the hoop, loosen the retaining screw until you can snap it easily. Then you can tighten the retaining screw back up to make the outer hoop nice and snug against the inner hoop. On each side of the hoop, you'll see raised hash marks. These marks mark the center of the embroidery area on each side. So these will really help you when you're trying to align and place and center fabric in your hoop. It's important to note though that these marks mark the centers of the embroidery area on each side and not necessarily the physical center of the hoop. So whenever you're trying to center fabric in the hoop, you always want to go off of these marks as opposed to trying to measure the physical hoop itself. Your Designer Jade 35 comes with a 240 by 150 millimeter embroidery hoop. This is about 9.5 inches tall by 6 inches wide. These dimensions refer to the embroidery area. So that's the physical space that your machine can embroider in when you're using the hoop. If you were to measure the actual sides of the hoop, you'll find that they're a little bit bigger than the size listed. This is because there's a margin around your embroidery area that prevents the presser foot from hitting the edges of the hoop while you're embroidering. Apart from this hoop, there's lots of other sizes of embroidery hoops that you can use that are all available at your local HUSQVARNA Viking dealer. You can use pretty much any standard hoop that's smaller than the 240 by 150 millimeter. Some examples would be the Designer Splendid Square, which is 120 by 120, the Do-It-All Quilter's Hoop, which is 150 by 150, the Texture Hoop, which is also 150 by 150, but that has special grooves on the side that help you lay ribbons and other textural elements across the top to incorporate into your embroideries. There's the Small Square Hoop, which is 80 by 80. And there's the Endless Embroidery Hoop, which is 180 by 100, and it has a special way of opening that allows you to reposition the fabric in the hoop while it's still attached to the machine. So this makes repetition and repeated designs a lot easier, so it's great for things like borders and similar applications. So with all of those different sizes out there, how do you know which size hoop to pick? Well, a good rule of thumb is that you want to pick the smallest size hoop that will still fit your project. There's a couple of reasons for that. The first reason is that you'll just use fewer materials, so it's a little bit more economical. The second reason is that it's more stable to use a smaller hoop, so more stitching per square inch of hoop space, basically. Because if you have a big hoop with just a tiny embroidery in the center, there's a lot of stabilizer and fabric around it that's not being held in place by anything. So smaller hoop is better. And if you ever try to attach the wrong hoop size or a hoop that's not compatible with your machine, don't worry, your machine will know and it will tell you. So hopefully that was a pretty good overview of the different types and sizes of hoops that are available to use with your Designer Jade 35. In the next episode, we are going to tackle how to hoop up your project.